Hold on here.
Yeah, it's your microphone. I don't know why.
Well,
So my mic
on
is
that note, we are definitely live.
That's what's up as we get started. Are those space lasers? Yes. Are they lasers that are in space? New timeline, new John Garrett. That just makes it worse. It's go time. Does it sound cool when I say that? Something interesting. There is 100%. This is the last time that the SHIELD team will ever be together. Fitz! We are talking ABC's Agents of SHIELD Season 7 series finale, episodes 12 and 13. The end is at hand. And what were we fighting for? We're going to break it down as thus because we have so much to talk about. So we need the whole panel here. And that's why we have Christian Blatt in the building.
In a building.
That's right. I'm in the building and in your house.
Okay, that sounds scary. Honestly, that's not okay. We also have KT Christine with her microphone. It's feedback. We need to figure that out. We need to figure that out. And we have the other person in the chat who doesn't believe in Daisy and I. The person who doesn't believe in Daisy and I. Agent Rachel Radner. Agent now?
Yeah. Yes, I am Agent. No. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, and this just the fact that not only is it the last Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but it's also maybe the last time that the four of us will be together on a panel. So I'm sad for that.
The only person I'm going to miss is Hubby Joe. That's the only person I'm going to miss. Hubby Joe. And we already all know how I treat him. So
you miss him so much, you're going to snub him again.
So we're going to break down both episodes. We're going to try to do them individually, but because they played back to back, we're always going to bleed in. We're going to break down episode 12. The end is at hand by doing Sybil in the flesh. We get to see Sybil. Malik, I don't know a better word but to say that Malik gaslit. He gaslights Cora. That's what he really did. It was some D-bag stuff. Attack on the lighthouse. There's an attack on the lighthouse. Mac, Daisy, and Sousa to the rescue. They're in space. Daisy and Sousa kiss for the first time again. Garrett gets trapped. Cora and Daisy showdown. We get that showdown. We were promised it's not the showdown we want, but it's the showdown we deserve. 084s. And everyone knows we're in trouble when it's those 084s. Agent Gamble, Simmons, Holy Matrimony, because she said that like 46 times. And of course, we get Fitz, and he's back in the building. Let's talk about our overall thoughts on that first hour of this season finale, series finale, ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 12, The End is at Hand, Part 1. Agent Radner, what were your thoughts?
Okay, so, and me, Christian and I, we actually talked about some of this last night as well on our first initial reaction. So I'm sorry for anyone watching this. Some of this will be repeated on my end. But yeah, I think I definitely preferred episode 13 over 12 in the sense of, you know, just things wrapping up and the way things were paced. I did like that we got the Sousa and Daisy kiss, though, and that even if she was going to die, which obviously we know she did not, but if she was going to die, I liked that we at least got that official kiss where in this version, this Sousa will remember the kiss. It's not like they're looped, so I appreciated that. I did think that we absolutely had to get Fitz in episode 12, and more than just a flashback. So I'm very happy
You think we needed Fitz?
Well,
listen, we earned Fitz. We as an audience earned Fitz.
Yes, and I do like how he arrived looking like Ant-Man, and I like the idea of Quantum Realm and the fact that, I like that was the tie-in all along. So I'll save more of those thoughts for when we get into 13.
We got a very similar machine as well. Katie, what were your thoughts?
I was happy we saw Fitz again, of course, but I wasn't really prepared for, even though I was ready for it and waiting for it, it still hit me a lot harder than I was expecting it to, realizing that, oh man, we're in the end game now, no pun intended. And I enjoyed it. I honestly, we talked about earlier in the season, talking about how they kind of could have gone without a few episodes because the final plot kind of seemed a little rushed. I feel like we did have a little bit of a rush. That's one of my only issues with it, was that I felt like we had to kind of glaze over some things really quickly because they just didn't have time to say them. But the way they set it up, and I didn't
Like what
expect-
things? What things did you feel like we glazed over?
I don't remember if it was in episode 12 or 13, but I remember when Daisy has the confrontation with her sister. Was that episode 12 or 13?
I actually thought that was before, like the actual confrontation where, like I thought that was
Yeah.
11,
Kate,
right?
Katie watched 11, 12, and 13 all last night, so they're probably all
okay.
ran
But no,
together
like,
for you.
we all were like, they're going to have a fight, and they basically
Oh.
barely had anything because they didn't have enough time in their story to have
Yeah.
anything more between
Yeah, that was in 12.
12. That was 12. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's just little things like that that I feel like had we started this plot line earlier, we may have been able to get a boss fight instead of just a really quick sum up of, hey, this happened, deal with it.
I see what you're saying, Katie. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the episode. And of course, our very own Takashi69, who just snitched on Katie, Christian Black. Oh, Katie watched 11, 12, and 13 last night. Like, we didn't even need to know that, Christian. What were your thoughts overall about this episode? What were your thoughts?
I needed to point out that somebody didn't do her homework, and she stayed up the night before trying to cram for the test. And right now she's got like a C+. So hopefully she's able to work it up to a solid B. But in all honesty, that's what I give episode 12. It was all right. I think that episode 13 was far more satisfying, but we needed that stepping stone. And I think that, it is hard to not look at them as a whole, because I obviously I sat there and I watched both of them back to back. And on the whole, I was satisfied. But the actual storyline that we've been with for the season, not the series we've been with for 7 months, I think that they did a decent job with it. But somebody I had tweeted at us, just wondering what we thought about it just on Twitter. And they made the point that it felt a little bit rushed, I guess, so that they could save time for the Oprah's book club at the end of the episode, where they all sat around and talked about their feelings. So I appreciated that as a longtime viewer of the show, but I do think it was at the expense of the story that we've been invested in for these 13 hours, or really it was 12 and a half at that point. So I think that the actual resolution of that storyline was okay, but on the whole, the finale was satisfying. But this is hardly an all-time series finale for me. When we were talking about this last night, I think Zach was the one who pointed out that season 5 was a better season finale if it had ended, series finale if it had ended there. You had them getting married, you have Fitz dying tragically, you have just all of this, and these extra seasons. It's great that we got 2 more years, but I think that they had a better way to end it. So. And the showdown between Malik and Daisy, that's in episode 13. So I don't even have an opinion right now.
Well, I'm going to go with episode 12 was actually one of my better favorite episodes of this season. Was it series finale worthy? No. Was it season finale worthy? Yes. And so going 12 and 13 complete, I did think that episode 13 should have only been 30 minutes long. They didn't need a whole hour. In episode 12, they stretched to make an hour so that they could give us 2-parters, when honestly, they could have cut it up and put it all in 1 hour and we would have been fine. I did like it. I liked the showdowns. I liked having Fitz come back at the end. Finally, we deserved it. I don't know how much I liked the Gemma just forgot everything. We've kind of gone through Alzheimer's a couple times in many different episodes. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's see what everyone thinks about the first concept, which is Sybil in the flesh. We get this Sybil, and Malik's like, "Oh, I thought you'd be taller," or whatever he said. Yeah. Go on, Agent Radcliffe.
All right,
Go on, Agent.
I will go on.
ahead.
Okay, this is what I did think worked very well between episode 12 and 13. If we're talking villains here, the idea of Malik. The characterization of Malik, we've only had him in this season. We didn't even get him the whole season. And the fact that they were able to build such a deep villain out of Malik this quickly, where I wouldn't say that we were completely afraid of him. Maybe at times, I wouldn't say he's the worst villain we've had, but he definitely, just as like an antagonistic force, it was very interesting to see him compared to Sybil, who was supposed to be the big bad of, this arc and of this ending piece here. And so to me, I think where the series finale and season 12, this was just a season finale anyway, I think where it worked well and succeeded is in the fact that you had two different villains who were very different characteristics, and it played off well. And after they kind of set all of this up, where we knew Sybil pretty well and we knew Nathaniel pretty well, and everything just kind of came tumbling out. And the way that everything played out, it between how Malik was reacting to Cora versus Sybil and Malik getting into a kind of a, not a heated argument, but when it comes to Sybil, I feel like that was pretty heated, and their disagreements between Malik and Sybil, I thought that they handled that very well. And I really enjoy when we've got two villains who they might be working together, but then near the end, you can tell when there's going to be a schism. And so to me, I really liked that we got Sybil again. If we had not gotten her in the flesh and we had not seen those scenes with Malik, it would have felt a little bit off to me. So I'm glad that we did.
Interesting. Katie, what were your thoughts?
I didn't really realize that the others hadn't seen her in the flesh until this, because we've seen her. So I didn't even realize that at that point until they brought it up. Because you know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things, you're like, oh yeah, they've always communicated elsewise. And I mean, I appreciate Sybil. She was a good villain in the sense that she kind of gets other people to do her dirty work, so she doesn't have to do as much. And I feel like a lot of villains do that. They kind of make other people do what they don't want to do themselves, or they're like, why should I do this? So I did appreciate that. And I wrote down in my notes that we're talking about, like, with Malik, his voice is so, like, the way he talks just kind of like makes my skin crawl a little bit. So I feel like that's what made him a better villain, in the sense that there was just a quality about him that was unsettling.
That's interesting. And yes, all managers are evil villains, like anyone who gets other people to do their work. Christian.
Well, now I know what it means when Katie said that I sounded like Malik to her. So
She did say
that hurts a little bit more than it should have. But I think that Sybil was a decent big bad, as the saying goes. But it's almost like she were an Ultron that went to public school instead of, his top-notch private school education, because she was a lot easier to outsmart. I mean, especially at the end, and I know that's episode 13, but basically they tricked her into giving out her ATM password, and then they just stole all of her money. And I don't think Ultron would have ever let that happen. So I do think that as S.H.I.E.L.D. villains go, this was a good overarching character. And I think that Malik only works because that he's just sort of, the puppet, being the marionette, really, I guess, who's being, strung along by Sybil. And if she didn't have use for him, she would have gotten rid of him, much earlier in the season. And he never realized any potential that he might have had. And then just because we're talking about Malik so much, our friend Ivan Soto in the chat wants to know, with Nathaniel, how do we feel about them turning him into a Bond villain when all season he'd been kind of like the Joker? I mean, wanting world domination was never his deal. I think you're right that early on he seemed like he wanted mayhem and he wanted things to burn down. But pretty quickly, I think that, power is what he wanted. And then what's more powerful than than basically the world domination. They weren't going to give him universe domination, so he would settle for just one of 9 planets.
Well, he went from I like how Ivan Soto said he went from Joker. He went from the Joker to just any regular villain, which was a concern that I had. I felt like they underutilized Sybil. I feel like Sybil, first of all, her hair was amazing. Okay, I don't know if you guys know enough about hair or specifically Black people hair, but just getting that cut, she had like that wig, that cut was very well put together every single episode. Number one. Number two, they very much underutilized her. I would have loved to have seen a Sybil fight scene maybe where she was just amazing because she's Sybil and she can kind of predict the future maybe. Something. I feel like we saw her twice when Malik was like, I want world domination. I want world domination. I mean, freedom of the world. And he did that slip up. And then we saw her when they were like, oh, you just gave the order? That's all we really needed, Sybil. And then May popped up out of nowhere and just kicked everyone's butt. I feel like this was one of those situations in this episode where they underutilized characters. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Do not feel bad bringing up episode 13 as we talk about both of them combined. We're just going to try to talk about episode 12, but we clearly watched them both back to back, so we know that their outcomes. So don't feel bad, and the topics we have in episode 13 are very different. Let's talk about Malik gaslighting Cora. I feel like that conversation they had in the hallway, and she's like, your mother just hated you, and so she told me you were a mistake, and she should have swallowed you instead, and said like a bunch of stuff. I was just like, what? Like, where did this Malik come from? Yes, Agent Radner.
Okay, here's my thing. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that Cora's background set her up to put her in a position where if some guy like Malik came around and was gaslighting her, she would have been so vulnerable to fall for all of it, because this is a young person who she grew up in Afterlife. She was very sheltered, for the good, the bad, the ugly, however you want to see it. She was very sheltered, always misunderstood. We know how Jiaying can be from what we've seen. And even if she was not that version yet, we know that there are things that maybe she could have pushed on Cora that would have put Cora in a position where she was going to leave. Or, we know she was going to try and kill herself to prevent hurting anyone else. But my whole point is that I can see why Cora would fall for this, and I can see why someone like Malik would be able to control her without much. Like, it didn't seem like Malik had to try that hard, but it makes sense to me. But I did not think, because this is the first time we've seen Malik manipulating her. This was the first moment where he really went this far. And then we started to see, okay, he definitely doesn't care about Cora at all. I mean, there was obviously question before, but this to me was the moment where, oh no, he really does not care about
What made you think he didn't care about her when he shot her? Christian, what were your thoughts?
No, I'm just saying before that, I thought maybe part of him did care.
Yeah, I think that if there was any doubt when he shot her, but it was a little bit more when he took her powers. And the power taking thing has annoyed me throughout this season, because when Daisy had her power taken and still had her power, at least she was out of it for an episode. Cora, it's like she took, I don't know, she's like, I could have had a V8, or she took an Advil, and she's like, oh yeah, but I can still use my power at full strength, even though this guy stole it from me. So, but I think that
power, by the way, my undisclosed power at this point.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I think that you definitely feel for Cora, because as Rachel pointed out, just the upbringing she had, she's so much younger emotionally than she is physically, that it's just very easy for this guy that as annoying as voice is, Katie, he swoops in and he's just like, yeah, but I realize how special you are. So
she didn't say annoying, by the way, Christian. She said unsettling. Yes. Your voice reminds her of Malik because it's unsettling. You heinous, despicable villain, you.
Yeah.
So I just want to clear that up.
True. I did.
Yeah, let's not focus on the fact that Katie has a corpse that she's strung up behind her. That we all want to know where the head is, because it's certainly not attached to the body.
Such a Takashi. See how you keep snitching on Katie?
It's okay.
Katie, what were your thoughts?
So I agree with what Rachel said in the sense that you could understand how she was so easily manipulated. She hasn't had a lot of experience with certain situations and with certain people. It also kind of reminded me in a lot of movies that you see like on Disney where this girl, it's like their first, like a high school girl's first love, where they believe just everything and want to do everything because they believe this person cares about them. So I did feel like there were moments where I felt it was very realistic in the sense that she is naive. And it was very sad to see that whole process unfold, because I feel like most people have been in that situation before. And I like the moments in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where you can feel something relatable in that instance.
I understand. I respect that. Who hurt you, Katie? Here's my thing, right? My concept is this is how you know Katie and I are different people. She said it reminded her of Disney movies. It reminds me of porn casting couches where they just talk the girl into anything, or just different people. Tomato. They're both actually very similar if you think about what Disney movies really are. I think that Malik kind of changed his tune this episode. It's almost as if we got a different Malik all the way through. We got a very different character out of him. Same unsettling Christian-like voice. However, a different character. Christian actually, if there's one thing Christian has done throughout all the seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he has remained the same. And so we got to respect Christian for doing that. I understood why she was manipulated. I just didn't understand what her power was. Her power is just energy. Is it she brought Daisy back to life at one point? She was able to exponentially manipulate the program that was given. I mean, her power is just whatever they needed it to be energy-wise at the time.
Hey, I'm noticing a parallel between Star Wars and Marvel this year, by the way. But that being said, the way that I understand
Shade has been thrown, everyone. This is geek shade.
But in any case, at least they lived in the end in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's all I'm saying without getting
How it works.
No, I just took it like she had some kind of, like you said, Tehran, some kind of energy power. But beyond that, I felt like the actual attack was just going nuclear. I don't know what, I mean, I do agree with you, though. I think that they could have explained it better, but maybe they just did not know.
Yeah, they just used it because it needs to be a thing. We also get this attack on the lighthouse. Now, that attack scene was pretty strong. I like the attack scene. Katie, what did you think?
I agreed, because that was, of course, the ticking time bomb of the episode is everything else has been destroyed. What are they going to do next? And I feel like what has been lacking a majority of this season is the fight choreography and the fights and all the action. We've been a little bit low on that compared to previous seasons. So I was happy that nearing the end of the entire series, we are getting back to some of that OG fight sequences where you're seeing them have to actually use their skill sets more, because it's kind of been a little dull on that sense this season.
It has been a little dull fighting wise. Christian, what were your thoughts on the attack on the lighthouse?
I have always been a fan of lighthouses. So as a child, I loved going to the Barnegat Lighthouse on Long Beach Island, New Jersey. So I was triggered by this. I had to pause the show. I had to go get my security blanket. I had to go sit in my safe space. And then I revisited the episode and I was able to enjoy it. But I worried about the lighthouse because to me, it's been a very important character in the last few seasons of the show. But watching the way that they were able to fortify it. And of course, when you take young Garrett and you trick him into not being able to teleport, I like stuff like that. I like when you outsmart somebody who thinks that they have a power that lets them do anything. And maybe that was true except that for seemingly the first time all season, Yo-Yo's power worked exactly the way it was supposed to. So, better late than never, Yo-Yo.
I loved everything that Katie said. Your voice is unsettling. Agent Radner.
You know what? I'm glad that I liked when it moved forward from the lighthouse and we went back to the meeting house in New York. Just want to say, like, speaking to that, I will never get over how amazing it is that Victoria Hand shot John Garrett. So thank you to the writers for doing that. That made my day. That made my life. I will not forget that Victoria Hand got her, not revenge, but she got her justice for her untimely death in season 1.
It's interesting because her shooting John Garrett, which made poetic licensing sense to all of us, might like unsettle her, and now she changes into something because she was very concerned. Like literally, someone showed up and she just shot. That was actually some villain type stuff too. Like without any provocation, she was like, "Pah! Who's next?"
Yeah, but the fact from like a storytelling standpoint, literally the second that John Garrett outlived his usefulness for telling the story, he was dead. It's like, great, we needed you to teleport our characters to this place, and now we don't need you anymore.
We literally don't.
That's a wrap on John Garrett, everybody.
Yeah.
John Garrett.
Let's go, John. He literally did that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I never got into John Garrett. I tried to like him. I was just like, when he died, I was not upset. I was like, thank goodness.
But what I'm really hoping is that in this alternative timeline with Deke as director, that we get Victoria Hand raising Grant Ward the right way. So we get good Ward who we met in the framework. That is what I'm hoping. Mm-hmm. Did not get this story.
Well, we'll never find out because there's nothing more to find. Mac, Daisy, and Susan go to space. They go to the rescue. What were your thoughts, Agent Radner, on Mac, Daisy, and Sousa in space?
I mean, I liked that Daisy was going to be the one to have the ultimate showdown. I liked where that was headed. I liked that, that's really like what I have to say about it. I liked that we were going to get that showdown. I don't want to jump too far into what we end up getting with it. But I liked that we kind of had that going on up in space versus everything at the safety house. And that we did get to have a moment between, Sybil and Daisy, and that we've had kind of things wrapping up there.
It's, that's actually interesting. It was very fun. John Garrett is like the Tehran of this panel. Joe, this is why I don't say hi to you. I just want to let you know, okay? This is why I don't say hi to you. Katie, what were your thoughts?
I feel like with that plot line, you expect it to be the part that's going to escalate the final or arc of the show. And you kind of saw some of Daisy's old character in the sense where she's going to do what she's going to do. And at this point, she already knows or has heard that this is their last mission together. So she's going to make it happen and make it work and do whatever she does. And I like that about Daisy. She's like, okay, I hear you, but what about this? And she got to have moments with pretty much every single character in the progress of the show. And I enjoyed that you were able to see a side of Daisy that when the show started, she was completely the opposite. And to see it kind of go full circle in a beautiful way, I was on board with it.
Yeah, I'm bored with her ending up with Sousa. You're a traitor too. Christian, what were your thoughts?
Well, that was really the worst part of the two-part finale, that Daisy did not come to her senses and realize that Tehran is who she should have been with all along.
Thank you.
That Sousa's a nice guy.
And your beautiful voice settles me. I just want to let you know. Your settling voice.
I mean, just off the top of my head, Sousa doesn't have any hats with his name on it. So really, why we have any interest?
Exactly.
I think I do like that we got this extra time with Daniel Sousa. That yes, he should have died as we saw early in the season, But realistically, there's no reason that we should have had any expectation that we would have seen him when Agent Carter didn't get renewed for season 3. Now, we knew from that set leak like a year ago that he clearly was in this season. But but we didn't know the extent to which we were going to get him. So it was always borrowed time. I did expect that he was someone who was going to die in this finale because he's just supposed to have been dead already. And I also thought that Coulson would die for real because of the simple fact that he was supposed to be dead before this show ever even started. So I think that not getting, not being on the kind of stakes, like, yes, there's sacrifice. And in true Deke fashion, we're half an hour into the show and we haven't even talked about him yet. And the fact that he did the sacrifice, which, as it was pointed out, he got to stay in the 80s with his band, and he probably did a note for note ripoff of Appetite for Destruction, and then he was able to make $1 trillion instead of the $1 billion he would have made doing tech. So I think that I liked what we saw from all of those characters, but the reason I started talking about that is that I thought that Sousa was going to get the chance to really have a moment of self-sacrifice. But honestly, Daisy just liked him too much to let him do that. It's like, no, can the cute one come with me? And how about we leave the annoying guy with the bag of lemons back in the 80s? Thanks.
It did work out in that way. I will say this, Coulson's still alive because they will use him in the Marvel movies. So they knew better than to have him killed, because if Marvel wants to use him, they get to use him. They get carte blanche. Everyone knows how that works. Don't mess with Feige. Feige will murder everyone you know.
And
like,
if they were to murder him, then there would be another fan outcry with hashtag Coulson lives, and then another show would be born. So, but no, I thought it was poetic that Coulson is now an LMD and can never die. Not really. Like, that to me was like poetry in motion.
It is something. It's something to be used later. Daisy and Sousa kissing. Are we on board for that?
Yes.
No. Look, no. I think that if it was done in a moment where she knew he was going to die, sure. You know what? The guy, is already 40 years out of his timeline, and then magically like 80 more years out. So yeah, if she wanted to give him a peck on the cheek, but no, I think that they'd been building to it for the season. So for some of the less discerning people who watch this show, I don't know, somebody that might be in a lower box next to Tehran, I'm not going to name anyone. That was what they really needed this season. So, it's like, it's sort of like, you'd have, like Shakespeare would have the really cheesy puns and stuff for the people in the cheaps. So this romance with the people in the cheap seats who couldn't appreciate a real romance like Daisy and Tehran, like the rest of us.
Thank you.
The way that the grown-ups felt about their show.
Hey,
yeah, that's
thing. Here's
Agent Radner, you are on timeout. Katie.
If Steve Rogers had not been able to get back to Peggy Carter, and I would have been very happy with Peggy and Daniel Sousa. But given the fact this did not happen, and given the fact that Daniel Sousa is now with Daisy, I am all for that.
You have no sense of romance whatsoever. Katie?
With the whole...
Yeah, just ask Hubby Joe. I think she probably has no sense of romance.
I'm waiting for his comment.
Hubby Joe's comment is actually that Agent Radner and Hubby Joe's romance is the John Garrett of love. Just want to say. Okay. Katie, what are your thoughts?
Give me lemons.
We all knew that it was going to go in that route, and I think it was pretty obvious to see it would go in that route. As far as the development and their chemistry, I do still feel like it was a little bit rushed and a little bit forced.
A lot of
that's
force.
The right way to say. Because at the end, and this is, I know, skipping into 13, but at the end when they're talking in the circle, it was just kind of weird to hear her talking about a man that was in her life. Because, I mean, let's be real, her love life has not gone well in the entire 7 years of the show. Like, I'm happy, of course, you're happy for her if she's genuinely happy. I just don't necessarily know that I completely believed it felt natural.
You know, I would have liked it if Daisy had kissed Sousa. I would have believed that more. I didn't like how, you know what this reminds me of? Sometimes when you're in the writer's room, you're like, oh, who wrote this? A guy wrote this. A guy wrote this. The guy wrote this. This is what they thought would be appropriate.
Kind of like a guy then, because that's probably how I would have written it. I like the fact that he kissed her because she kissed him in the time loop. But yeah. No, I just think that I'm happy that it worked out that way. I needed him to kiss her personally because I needed her.
Because you're a hater, yes.
Well, no, because I needed. Here's the thing with Sousa. I don't know. Did you guys all watch Agent Carter? Because that was one of the reasons I love him so much is because of Agent Carter.
Yes.
He is not the kind of guy, like this shows a lot of character arc for him because he's not the kind of guy who just goes up and kisses someone that he likes. It took 2 entire seasons for him and Peggy to kiss, and she had to initiate. So here's the thing. I feel like as an Agent Carter fan, we got a lot of art. We got to see his character arc with the fact that he reached out and kissed her. So
yeah, that's true. I wish Sousa had died. All right, so let's go to let's talk about Garrett. Well, let's talk about Garrett really quick because we got to move fast because we do have a whole nother episode to discuss. Garrett getting trapped and then using him. We kind of touched on that, but it also led to the whole concept of utilizing Garrett, him being trapped, and then turning his back on Malik because of what Malik said. Did you find this to be an applicable use of Garrett, Agent Radner?
It was characteristic to me. No matter what, like, however they were going to do it, I didn't expect John Garrett to get this big send off. So I feel like it wrapped up the way it should have with him. Also, it was characteristic of Malik to be like, yeah, whatever, you're going to die. I don't care. Like, I don't care about John Garrett. He was just a pawn in my plan. So I felt like that ended where it should have. I
agree. Katie, what were your thoughts?
Yeah. It's kind of echoing off of what we were talking about earlier in the sense that he's been showed through a lens what he's supposed to believe. And so he got this awesome power and he kind of goes power hungry. And of course he's thinking this is awesome, but doesn't really know much about it. And so he's just taking what Malik said as his word. And I think I wasn't surprised. And I did like that we did see a little bit of well, I kind of made the wrong decision here, y'all, and that resolution.
Yeah, I mean, they did really just kind of take Malik's word, like, this is what's going to happen. Look, see? Okay, told you, be on my side. Christian, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, Malik sort of promising the world to, young John Garrett, or as I referred to him in an earlier show, Stifler Garrett, because just the uncharacteristic, the giddiness
Christian.
And but both the way that he was so, that Malik was able to so easily manipulate both him and Cora, as pointing out with a voice that sounded like nails on a chalkboard, that I think that it, you do kind of wonder, like I expected last week that when Cora finally saw him again after finding out that he had killed her mother, that she was going to kill him. And honestly, that would have been a more satisfying end for the character. I know we'll talk about the fight when we talk about episode 13. And as cool and pun intended, explosive as that ending was, I think from just a character development story, if Cora had killed him before, it's like, no, you're not even making it to the finale. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and win the Super Bowl without you. You're out in the AFC Championship game. I think that would have been, just from a storytelling standpoint, I think it would have been more satisfying.
It would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I like it. I like where this conversation's headed. Let us talk about that Cora and Daisy showdown, because we did get that in this episode, and we get the showdown but it wasn't exactly the showdown we thought we were going to get. Katie, what were your thoughts?
Obviously, aside from it being a little rushed, is we haven't really gotten to see too many actual family confrontations in the show. We've seen some, but they've all been spaced out all throughout the whole show. So it was necessary and expected. And I can't decide if I'm upset or happy that it didn't go the way I wanted it to. Because obviously I wanted it to see all their powers flying, all at it, and then through that maybe she got injured and Daisy had to be like, hey, listen, this is not right. I don't want to hurt you, kind of thing. So, like I said, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I like the way they did it, but I'm still a little disappointed it didn't go the other way.
It didn't go the other way. It was a little rushed. Agent Radner?
I do agree with Katie, definitely. But what I did like about it is that we see a lot of Cora in the way that Sky was in season 1.
Yes.
I do appreciate that we kind of get, like, with Daisy, I feel like she's kind of looking at herself, except I'm guessing Cora is maybe supposed to be 20, maybe a little bit younger than that. They never really specified. So this is, even though this is Daisy's older sister, this is her younger sister who Daisy can probably see that she needs someone to believe in her the way that Coulson and the rest of the team believed in Daisy. And so I think that this showdown moment, it wasn't just that Daisy convinced Cora that she should kind of step down and what was really happening, but I think that Cora also accidentally convinced Daisy that Cora could be saved and that Cora wasn't this bad person and that Cora was just another version of Sky that could be helped if someone loved her.
Christian?
Yeah, I think that it's funny because there was a I could do this all day moment between that showdown between the two of them. And I did like, if they weren't going to have that be the big conflict, that they didn't waste the time with it, because they could have given us this huge epic fight, but then like, sister hug. Yeah, sister hug. Let's go save the world. So I am kind of glad that they didn't waste the time on it like that. But I did kind of like their dynamic together. And I think the idea of when we meet Daisy, when she's still Sky and she doesn't have any family, and then she finds the Shield family, and then the way that we end with man in her life who isn't the guy she's supposed to be with. We've established that already in this episode, but then also she at least has her sister. So, because obviously Tehran, Sousa's not going to be able to love her the way she needs to be, but at least she has her sister who really cares about her.
Yeah, because they're setting it up for a spin-off, Astro Ambassadors, which is going to be a great show they're going to watch. I'm pretty sure it's a spin-off potential. I really do think so. I really think they're going to have a spin-off with it's going to be basically Legends for Marvel, you know? So it's going to be a concept of them in space and everything they encounter. I thought the showdown was good. I do like how they didn't waste time. I do like how they didn't just say, hey, Cora and Daisy didn't fight and then Cora remained a bad person. It helped bring her to the good side, and it played in the later episode. We have just a couple more things to go over in Agents in episode 12. 084s and Agent Gamble. That whole concept. Everyone going back to the bar, and these 084s and shooting Garrett, and they all coming together. And then, of course, Simmons with her holy matrimony, and that whole, her kind of remembering enough to put things together, but not knowing why. What were your thoughts on that, Christian?
Well, I was glad that we started to put all the pieces together, as Gemma also started to put them together. I think it wasn't too hard to be a step or two ahead of her, but sort of being in that bar and everyone being there and just watching the know-how she had to put everything together, I think was actually a really cool sequence. I think that, and then the idea that something was missing, and the matrimony was because it was the ring. She definitely said the words holy matrimony too many times, but I did think it was kind of a cool reveal. I think that it was kind of a very inventive thing. And because it does bring us back around to the real hero of the season, without Enoch, every single one of these characters would be dead.
All of them.
We would, yeah, literally everyone would have been dead. So thank you, Enoch. And it was great to have him back in our lives. And, when you think about everything he did for them over the decades and just always planning, this is the guy with the real end game in mind. I thought it was really cool. And as Rachel alluded to earlier, the reveal of Fitz is definitely really fun, especially because they dealt with the quantum realm and he had the helmet, the Ant-Man / Star-Lord like helmet. And then, hey, everybody, it's me. Remember how I used to be on this show? No, you probably don't because it's been so long.
We got a lot. We got a lot of that. I will say that Simmons started getting on my nerves, not knowing everything. But Katie, what were your thoughts?
Some of my favorite moments of Fitzsimmons is when we get to see their brains work, and being able to see the way they figure things out, and to have that struggle of, we did talk about the amnesia thing earlier and how it's kind of been a little overplayed, and I think I did predict this earlier in the season, saying that I did think she was going to completely forget him. But I have to say, once Fitz showed up, I don't think I stopped crying until the end of.
First of all, let's just say all of you people thought Fitz was dead. Let's not say.
I was worried after the end of the last episode when she didn't know where he was. I was like, oh no. Wait, no, he's not actually dead.
All of you predicted Fitz was dead. Only yours truly said Fitz is still alive. I just want to point that out there. I was crazy.
Oh, no one called you crazy for that.
I was crazy. Just insane.
I can get why you did get a little bit annoyed. There were some.
They dragged it out. Like, dude, my name's Simmons? Like, okay.
Yeah, I get you.
Come on. Let's.
I did think, okay, if I hear holy matrimony one more time.
Rachel Radner.
I am going to play the devil's advocate here and say that I actually really loved Liz's performance because it genuinely felt like somebody who may have had Alzheimer's, with random information coming in and then not knowing anything. I thought her performance was phenomenal. The look in her eyes, as soon as they shot her with whatever it was, she went blank. And you could see, as it gradually, once Fitz was here, I won't talk about this too much, but in 13, as she gradually starts to get her memories back, you could see that slowly her eyes return to normal. But just the fact that in 12, at the end here, it literally was like they were helping someone who was going through dementia or Alzheimer's. So I appreciated that. I appreciated the smart way that they wrote all of these pieces in together, to the point where as Gemma is putting them all together like muscle memory, we hear her specifically give us a foreshadowing hint where she says matrimony. And I know you guys are saying she said it so many times, but one specific time she said 2 become 1, 3 become 1. And now my thing is, couple weeks ago, before this episode aired, there were some leaks that showed exactly what the ending was going to be with the baby and everything. So I didn't know if these leaks were legitimate, but I saw the pictures enough to at least be pretty much thinking, oh no, Fitz is alive. So part of it was that, I had to pretend like I didn't know what I had seen. But in any case, when I saw this moment with Gemma saying 2 become 1, 3 become 1, it dawned on me that she specifically made those 2 comments because even though the inhibitor chip was originally programmed to make her forget, she was kind of remembering on like a deeper level the way she told Fitz she would, without actually remembering. And also, I know like when I was talking to hubby Joe about this, we were like, at first he was wondering why she was crying so much in the time loop. And it made sense to me as soon as we found out there was a kid, it made sense to me that in the time loop moment, she would break down knowing suddenly that it wasn't just her life at stake with everyone else, it was her child's life too. So I personally loved these moments and these pieces. Before we even knew the full truth, I thought that it was very cleverly written and put together, especially, the fact that, we get Fitz, and I loved that moment between Fitz and Simmons where Fitz is looking at her, expecting her to recognize him, and she just does not.
Holy matrimony. Holy matrimony. It was a holy matrimony. If only someone had predicted there was a kid. Let's go to episode 13, What We're Fighting For. So Fitz is back. Cora is the key. Deke stays. Gemma remembers. Missing Fitz. We get that storyline, which was great. Daisy and Malik fight. Coulson captured. Chronicoms get empathy. Daisy's sacrifice. Alia. And then, of course, 1 year later. So, which actually a lot of people don't know. This is actually, we're going to be dropping Jim. The 1 year later part is going to be its own Lifetime series. So on Lifetime.
Oh, I thought Comedy Central. You could have fooled me.
Oh no, Lifetime. Such a great reunion. Let's talk. Fitz is back. That was a moment to cheer. I mean, that's all, right, Christian?
Yeah, I think it is really what we'd been waiting for all season. And it literally could not have happened any later, because it was at the end of the years that it's like, hey, Fitz is back. But I did like that they finally connected those dots. I liked seeing them, in the blue spacesuits, and, just sort of just seeing how it all worked out. Getting to see Piper, because at some point in the season, I was like, yeah, whatever happened to Piper? But, she was on guard duty. And I thought that I think that, bringing it all together, episode 13 did a good job of, it was a little rushed, like I said before, but it also had to bring back the previous season and really just so many other things. And then also they wanted to leave us with a warm, fuzzy feeling 1 year later. So I think they did a great job at filling in the questions that we've kind of had all season.
Do you agree, Katie?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this earlier, in the sense that one of the biggest concerns I had, and I think most of us have had for the whole season, is what's going to be left unvisited. What are they going to leave hanging? And I was trying to think of stuff, and I was like, I feel like when I was watching it, there was one question that I had, but I can't remember what it was now. But the lead up to Fitz, and it's kind of like that absence makes the heart grow fonder, but we already know we all love Fitz, and I definitely had the reaction seeing him again that I would expect to have after having him gone for basically 12 episodes. I mean, we saw the flashbacks of him, but actually seeing him in person. And the 13th episode for me was much better than the 12th, like you guys said earlier, in the sense that it was a well done finale, and I am very satisfied with it. I wouldn't say it's on my best list, but it's definitely not on my worst list. So having it also be a Fitz heavy episode was very nice, considering we needed it.
I mean, it was a good series finale, but it's no Alf season finale. Can we talk about, okay, no? Agent Radner, what are your thoughts?
I think.
Look, I mean, if you want to talk about the Alf series finale and how the government showed up to take him away, and we never actually got to see what happened.
Now that
did Willie go and rescue him?
Finale.
We could spend let's spend the next hour on that. And by the way, the Alf series finale, much better than the Lost series finale. Anyway, go ahead, Rachel.
Rachel.
Thank you, Christian. No, yeah. I think the hardest part for me was, one, like you're all saying, I think I definitely liked 13 over 12, but I do feel like we needed 12 to fit in some of those pieces. With 13, I think the hardest part for me is, like, one, I was happy that Fitz was back. It was really hard for me to watch this episode knowing that this was going to be it, though. And I wanted as much Fitzsimmons screen time as possible. So it was very bittersweet because we did get them. We did get that whole backstory. It really, like, Fitzsimmons, and I kind of said this yesterday during the reaction with Christian, but I'll just say it again. Fitzsimmons is my OTP, and so from the beginning, from season 1, that is the reason.
OTP? Yeah, you know me. What's OTP?
What's OTP? Pairing, and they are one of my. I will say I have 2 OTPs, but Fitzsimmons is.
Fitzsimmons, Daisy, and Tehran. Therese. Yes.
Nah, not quite, but okay. But with Fitzsimmons, the reason why this will be, I wouldn't say this is the greatest series finale I've ever seen, but it is the one that will probably mean the most to me forever, because Fitzsimmons, they were kind of like, they're the same age as me. The real life actors, Ian and Liz, same age as me, and like, just watching them grow up on this show and watching them age to the point where, hey, now they have a little child. I feel like as they were going through their years as young adults, I felt like, I'm sure, obviously a lot of people at home feel this way too, but I'm one of those people who felt like I went on the journey with them, in the sense that we were emotionally growing, like, at the same time, because same age, going through certain things. And, like, as my life was going up and down, I, like, always had this show, and I always had Fitzsimmons to watch. And so it was very bittersweet for me to see this ending for that reason. And just how, like, we got to see that Fitzsimmons finally got their moment together, where they didn't have to rush and they didn't have to go back to work. I was just really happy that they got to retire, that they have their daughter, and that they're going to get their happily ever after. Like, that was the most important thing to me. Second was Daisy and Daniel, but no, just kidding. But no, Fitzsimmons was my number one. Like,
that's actually, it was very beautiful how you put it. I actually, now after hearing that, I wish Fitzsimmons died. I wish they both died.
Oh,
I wish they had just died.
Yeah.
I just wish they died.
Daisy and Daniel are now my number one reason for watching this finale, and I'm so glad they got together.
Listen. If it wasn't written in, Daniel could never get Daisy. Okay. Oh
well.
It was great having Fitz back, and it was also great watching Fitz take his time with Gemma. We'd seen, if you remember, this juxtaposition the other way around in season 4. So now it was time for Fitz to be the one taking it slow with Gemma and reminding her who he was and filling in the blanks and doing the storyline. And it was a great segue into our next part, which is missing Fitz. We got this Fitz storyline. Katie, what were your thoughts on that Fitz storyline, where the missing pieces we've been looking for all season?
In what context? You mean like his just what? He
No,
was
not only just what he was doing, but that whole, we got this whole storyline of they were creating a time machine. Enoch was there. They lived a regular life. We got all the missing pieces filled in. What are your thoughts?
I very much appreciated the entire storyline of the Fitz, and specifically Fitzsimmons storyline. As I said earlier, once Fitz showed up, I was crying a lot. This episode, because of Fitzsimmons, I have loved Fitzsimmons since day one, just like Rachel said. And to see them finally, not only just them, but just to see the show finally have something good and something happy, was really enjoyable to watch, because it's a very darkness. There's always this sadness that kind of revolves around everybody in the show. And it was beautiful. That's the best way to put it. And then, of course, when you see the reveal at the end that they're like, are you telling me we're regarding this for nothing? And to see that reunion with their daughter, I mean, it was, I think, the best way to wrap up Fitzsimmons' characters in the show, because we've never gotten them to see them be happy and be together for a long time, because everyone is they're always getting torn apart. And to just see that fact that she may not remember him, but he's going to do his damn best to be like, that is my wife, and we're in this together through thick and thin. And I was just super emotional every single time they came on screen this entire episode.
Yeah, I cried every time I saw Sousa with Daisy. Radner, do you want to speak on this subject?
Yeah, I would love to speak on the subject, and not Daisy. Yeah, just to kind of second what Katie said too, like it was the whole thing is that we know from the beginning when Fitzsimmons finally got together, like first of all, Fitz told her he loved her and she could not, like she didn't know how to transition their friendship into something more for the longest time. And we know that by the time she actually did, it just like Fitz said, he believed they were cursed. And then the framework where he was trying to kill her, like, which by the way, that is the reason why the framework is one of my favorite moments of all time.
Not it's the most realistic depiction of marriage. I agree.
No, because it was so juicy and dramatic, and Fitz turning into this evil doctor like that.
I loved Evil Fitz. Remember how much I loved Evil Fitz?
Yes, I know, Fritz, you called him.
Fritz.
Yes.
Loved
and so
him.
to see like them call back to that with the fact that we didn't have to see Fritz again. We've already, they've already brought Fritz back when Gemma and Fitz were in the machine where they were stuck together in their minds. We've seen him. We've seen Fitz's dark mind. We remember the conversation where Gemma was telling Deke that, well, Deke was really telling Gemma, yeah, the way that my mom used to talk about her dad was that he always had a dark mind, but that he was a really good person. And just all those callbacks to that in the moment when Fitz explains that he could not take the inhibitor chip because his mind would not have accepted it. And we know why. We know everything that he's been through. Like even before the framework, it's kind of implied that because of like just everything and the way that he thinks, there is darkness there.
And his father.
Yeah, well, his father, but even in the world where he did not know his father, there was still darkness in him. And just the fact that we know like that if he put that inhibitor chip on, he would not have been able to accept it the way that Gemma did, which is why she had to be the one to make the sacrifice. And even though for Fitz, it was just a second and he was back with them, we know how much pain Gemma went through in these last, I'll say 12 episodes, because by 13, she was back with him. But those 12 episodes, you could just feel her pain.
I felt it right there. Christian, did you feel it?
You know what? I didn't feel it, but I was concerned about the pain that Fitz was feeling because I think it was Michael B. Somebody asked this question. What impact did it have on Fitz to see the time stream? Because clearly it took a lot out of him. And if you remember the previous episode where we saw some flashbacks, they talked about tests. That was part of the reason why I was convinced that he was dead. I thought something was wrong with him. And so early in the I thought that they were, kind of setting us up for that. And the fact that again had me convinced, like, well, they can't possibly give Fitz and Simmons a happily ever after. He, didn't die on their wedding night, but he died in that episode. So I felt like we were going to get that again. Oh, everybody's happy back together, and now Fitz is dead again. So I thought that we were going to see that, and I don't know. Did anyone else think that there was something wrong with him because they did leave us those breadcrumbs?
Nope.
I feel like
I instantly thought it was pregnancy, even before the leaks. As soon as the
okay.
I thought it was going to be something like he had brain cancer or something that was affecting his mind. Honestly, that's what I thought.
Oh, Michael B. Yeah, the way she was looking at him at the end, she was kind of sad. Man, you have a heart. I don't. And so for me, it became a situation where it was like, the panel cracks me up. Left side is empathy. Left side is kill them all. My problem with the Fitz Simmons thing is I'm not a fan of not well done time travel. If they're living a life, why did they not age? There's no reason that they didn't age. They should have aged while they were going, even if it was a second for everyone else. We've seen time loops before. We've seen time travel before. We've seen the concept. It's like if time is going linear for you, you age, you come back, you're an old man, and everyone else is the same age. Where we saw that? Captain America.
But it was only like 3 or 4 years, right? Like it wasn't anything where they would look that much older.
No offense, Rachel, but you looked amazing 3 years ago, okay? So
thanks, Tehran.
No offense. I look the same, but black don't crack. But Rachel, let's be real. Like You,
3 or
you've
4
got-
years, you're not going to look that much different. I thought it was fine. If it was like 20 years, I'd agree with you. If this was like Captain America, he literally aged like 70 years.
all I'm saying is I expect there to be some change in 5 years. Think about the change between 28 and 33. 28 and 33, you're a different person. Like 20, you're right when you say, so you're telling me when you were 23 and you were 28, you look the same?
But that's not how they aged.
I'm just asking. Like it was a good 5 years. They have a kid. The kid, by the way, the blonde-haired kid, where'd we get that gene? The
Ted,
blonde-haired kid, okay?
look, baby pictures.
The
Fits
blonde-haired kid looked like she was 20. The blonde-haired kid.
Look, it all goes downhill pretty quickly. When I was 28, I looked like Michael J. Fox on Family Ties. By the time I was 33, I looked like him now.
okay.
So, you know,
And you shake, Christian. Too soon.
They were
That's the thing.
well, I left that door open for you because I just talked about his looks. Then you talked about his affliction. And can we talk about how this kid I've never seen a child actor cast that looks any less like the two people that are supposed to be the parents.
100%.
I was just like, where did they get this little albino girl?
That's some executive producer's daughter. There's no reason
Yes,
that child is someone's kid. That child is someone's like adopted niece. There's something. It was a Make-A-Wish Foundation. There has to be a reason why that child was used. Like, that's how it works.
I didn't have a problem with it. The blonde hair made sense to me because of Fitz. Because when you look back on earlier seasons, they actually showed a baby picture. It's a real baby picture of Ian with his real biological mom. And yes, he had blonde hair. So I bought the blonde hair. That did not make me think
that much blonde hair.
Pretty blonde. It was pretty blonde.
It was so blonde. It was too blonde. That blonde was listen, that was Aryan Nation blonde. That was literally, they went back in time and took a kid from World War II and were like, you will populate the world. I'm sorry. I didn't buy them. I didn't buy that kid for them. I would have bought more. If they had a little Latinx child. If they had a Latinx child. But by the way, can we talk about the fact that Daisy was able to love Cora, who's the sister she never knew, and Daisy was able to love her and like rekindle that sisterly love, and yet Fitz and Simmons could never make it work with Deke. They could just never. That is your freaking that is the daughter that you're oohing and awing about. That's her child.
I agree.
That you guys don't care about. It's like, oh, Deke dies. Oh, no. Thank goodness Deke died.
Deke's a whole other conversation, though. I'm pissed off at the way they handled him.
Oh, we're going to talk about Deke. You know what? Let's talk about Deke right now. Let's talk about Deke staying and knowing that he's the one to sacrifice. By the way, we all thought Deke was going to die. I was actually kind of happy he didn't.
Yeah, I thought he was going to die too. I did not expect that he was going to stay behind. I'm glad that Sousa didn't, because I did want him to be with Daisy. But what pissed me off
is such a hater.
I do not like Tehran. I am right there with you. With this whole time that we've been on this panel, you have consistently said that you do not like the way that they treated Deke, and I am right on board with you. I don't like the disrespect. Deke has done so many amazing things. Including the one who suggested the plan with the bubble. He figured it out over Fitz. He one-upped Fitz. Can we just talk about how brilliant...
By the way, not the first time. Not the first time he's made a sacrifice. Even if he lived, if you remember, the first two times he made the sacrifice, he thought he was going to die, and yet he didn't.
Yeah.
Right? They consistently talked trash about him, including his own grandparents. And dismissed him.
I get that at a certain point it was comic relief and that they were just doing it because it was like a whole gag with the cast. I get that. But what pisses me off the most, this guy stayed behind, and fine, yes, he's now director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I think is exactly what he deserves. But
he deserves it.
Why did we not get a 1 year later moment with him? Why was that not the end credit somewhere where we at least saw Deke kicking butt and taking names? Like, come on now. Also, there needs to be a spinoff where Deke is now not only in control of Shield the way that he took over, but number two, he with Victoria Hand, they could be taking young Grant Ward and taking him under their tutelage and basically raising him up to be a good man, and that would have been poetic to me.
Rachel, I know Grant Ward is really attractive. No one likes Grant Ward. Christian, what were your thoughts?
There's I would say that the only person I liked less than Grant Ward was Ada, but apart from that,
I loved Ada though. Ada was so amazing, but
oh man! But I think that they it became the running joke throughout the series, but also in these 2 episodes of, well, we're here to rescue Simmons and Deke. Yeah, whatever. And they did that several times. And they do make the reference for, oh, he's probably playing at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, what Rachel said, I would definitely have loved, even if it was just a couple of seconds of, we see that, I don't know, he's like at Lollapalooza or something, or, 94, and you look out and there's like thousands of people out there, and he's also like, doing spy stuff on the side, Yeah. So he gets to have the rock star and be the director. We need Agents of Deke. I'm not quite sure what Deke stands for, but DEKE. That's the show we need. That's the show we deserve. You want him on that wall. You need him on that wall.
Thank you, Kristen. Katie?
I'm mixed. I agree with you guys. I do think he did deserve better, but I did also enjoy, I do like a good redemption story, and I do like the moment. There was the moment where he does get acknowledged by people on the team and saying, like, you are a good person.
They said it almost out of guilt, like, oh yeah, you're a great guy. Move. They didn't even hug him. They didn't even go and hug him and be like, oh no, Deke, you know what, little guy, we picked on you, but we're gonna miss you, man. Like a group hug, something. Even May could have been like, you are all right, or something. They were just like,
but I did enjoy the comic relief of when he cut off Sousa. Like, I thought it was so funny. I don't care if it was a little like weird and awkward, but I was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like, it was a good little transition that I wasn't expecting, and I I did like that we were able to get that little bit of comic relief to break up what was about to happen. I think character-wise, I am very happy with how his outcome came up. And you got to see him once again be selfless, even though for some reason I think a lot of the team thinks he's a selfish person, but he's not. He's actually really selfless. And to be able to see him make that decision where, he's not happy about Sousa and Daisy, but he puts that aside.
And he goes, like, hey, I care about your happiness.
I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm going to do this because, let's be real, you're not able to do this, dude. And he also still had that jab of, really, dude, can you do this?
No, you can't. You like light bulbs. You think light bulbs are crazy.
I will say, like, really fast, what I appreciate about that moment is that Fitz got to see friend zoned. And because to me, Fitz should be able to.
I'm sorry, it cut out. It cut out right when you said that.
Fitz got to see Deke friend zoned, and I didn't. The thing for me is Fitz should be able to connect with Deke over that, because Fitz was initially friend zoned by Gemma. So to me, I was like, oh, this is coming full circle. He's watching his grandson get friend zoned when he got friend zoned. So
listen, here's the thing. Daisy doesn't owe Deke any explanation or anything, but the team needed to acknowledge Deke. They needed to say, hey, Deke, you're amazing. You've constantly, by the way, I think the number one thing that people forget, and it actually very much upset me, is people forget where Deke came from. The world, the kill or be killed world he came from, the entire humanity on a ship with nothing but scraps, basically coming out of slavery. And it reminded me exactly of the concept of the idea of white privilege. It reminded me of the concept of systemic oppression. It reminded me of not taking into context where people come from and their background and their programming, and how much he's had to overcome in order to accept loyalty, trust, friendship. This is basically he's the future version of a crack baby, and then they treated him like a crack baby, and yet he did everything to overcome where he came from. and they still treated him like crap. And that's why I get so frustrated with it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the interesting thing because I already talked about how Enoch was the MVP. And when you think about the fact that Enoch does that, and then, of course, Deke makes this huge sacrifice for them, the two people that they most took for granted and took advantage of throughout these last couple seasons, Deke and Enoch, are again the ones that without whom everyone would be dead. So
no one said, "Hey, Enoch, Korra's power can do something. Maybe we should just use Korra's power to keep you alive." I mean, we use Korra's power for everything else. That's why I get so frustrated when people talk about Deke, is because I see parallels when it comes to people from the third world, or it comes from people from ghettos, or people from socioeconomically disenfranchised people. I see it when it comes to, let's make fun of all rednecks because they have an accent, and it's look at them. Never mind that the redneck has a PhD. He talks like this, so he must be stupid. And I hate that kind of characterization. And I saw what they did with Deke without understanding his background. I disliked it a lot.
I agree with you. And I think that what's sad too is that this could be like just the fact that you look at someone like Daisy and they treated her completely differently than Deke. Daisy came from the system. She came from a place where she never knew love. She never had a mother. She never knew connection. And they took her in and they loved her and they gave her a home, and they could not do the same thing for Deke. But Deke, despite all odds, he kept trying, and he would walk in with a smile on his face, and he just kept taking the garbage from these people. And that is why, like, I know we've only seen him since season 5, but they did a disservice to the character by basically not having people genuinely respect him and say goodbye. We got the moment with Max. I liked Max saying, like, giving him a call and, over this whatever, and saying, you taught me what friendship means. And that, to me, Mac is really the only one who said the right thing. No one else gave him the respect that he deserved. They deserve to give him a spy's goodbye, the way that, I know they didn't have time, but they could have done something where
a hug. All I'm asking is for a hug. A second of, wow. They literally didn't touch him.
Yeah. Give them something like what Bobby and Hunter got, even if it's
a high five, bro. A high five. Great job, Deke.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, they actually felt like they did him a favor, which is disgusting. Like, he's gonna live out his little dream, even though he's all alone. Don't forget that Deke is literally all alone in the world. All alone.
Yep.
The only two people that he has is family. He's a complete orphan. The only two. Not only was one gone this season, but the other one basically doesn't even acknowledge his existence in a way. And even though he's super protective of his grandmother, super protective, she didn't care about him. Didn't care. It just was really destructive to me.
It was weird to me that Fitzsimmons, as much as I love them as a couple, it was weird to me that they did not show more emotion saying goodbye to him.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
very
something. Let's talk about Daisy and Malik's fight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Katie, go for it.
So we were talking about fighting a little bit in this episode 12, but my particular favorite part is when they're working around the radioactive, like, orbs, and they're saying, "Hey, be careful, these are radioactive." And she did a flip, or like flew across of it and landed on the other side. And it just gave me all those great vibes. Like, for example, even though the Inhumans plot had some major issues, when we had those plot lines, I think it was season 5, right? That was season 5, where she had to fight to basically stay alive. It kind of reminded me of those scenes in that season 5 time, where she's facing off against the greater evil, and not just for her sake. He was like, the only way that you can kill me is to kill yourself. And I was like, ooh, what? Like, where's my popcorn? Like, the fact that we got to see Daisy be like, yeah, you're right. And you know what? I'm going to do it. Granted, I was a little worried. I was like, wait, she's not really going to die, right? Like, of all the people who could die in this episode, please don't let it be Daisy. So, of course, then we got the weird her getting brought back to life by her sister, which I'm assuming is the reason she was able to do it is because of her mother. That's the only reason I'm assuming she was able to have that same power. But I did not see that plot twist happening, and I was very appreciative of it that we did finally get to see two people with basically the same powers, and his a little bit escalated by stealing Korra's. We still got to see her shine, and we've been waiting for that moment all season.
Yeah, and how strong is he as a person that he was able to absorb two, let alone one, but two powers? I mean, anyway, Rachel, I think Christian and I are on the same page when it comes to the stealing of the powers thing. Rachel, what were your thoughts?
I didn't think she was going to die. Like, I kind of knew, like, Zach said this yesterday, so I don't want to take what he said. I'm going to give him credit. But he had said that the stakes were not that high because it did not feel like she was going to die. And I agree with him.
We don't know who Zach is. We don't know. He's betrayed us. He betrayed us. I killed him. We battled to the death and I won. So
everybody who's listening to the Bladcast probably knows him from yesterday. But yes,
he's an LMD. He's an LMD. LMD Zach.
Sure. But yeah, so the stakes, to me, this was not one of my favorite moments of the scene, of the episode, but I did like what Katie said, which is the part where Daisy actually says, yeah, the whole point was I was going to die, and that we see her out in space, which prompted me to go and watch a video about what actually happens if your physical body was in space. And that is, surprise, surprise, not what would happen to someone, but okay. So
why? What do you think happens when someone goes into space?
Well, per the video I watched, and I can share it to cite my source later, but per the video, you don't actually freeze at first. The pressure in your body would be the first thing to go, and that's how your body would start to react before the freezing. And you would theoretically, as long as you didn't actually try to breathe, you'd last longer.
You would last longer. That's true. You could last in space. The UV rays and everything else get to you.
Right. That would get you. And also there was an experiment they did with an astronaut where allegedly he got stuck in space, like not actually, but through their experiment, where he felt boiling on his tongue. So that's the sort of stuff that actually happens. But here, any case, getting back to Daisy, I felt like it was our Princess Leia moment. And there, again, a lot of parallels to The Last Jedi. And then getting back just really quickly to our force healing Marvel moment with Korra. I, as a huge Star Wars nerd, it was hard for me to not divorce my knowledge of force healing and watching and reading the Star Wars novels from this moment. I almost took it like Korra was able to do it, not because of her personal powers, but because all Inhumans could do it, because they literally said when Korra, a couple episodes back, when Korra tried to heal Jiaying, she literally said, I'm just transferring energy, which is exactly like, that's the idea of force healing, is you're transferring life force into someone else so they live. So that's how I thought Korra did it, not because of her powers, even though they did not explain this, at least not in this episode. I'm wondering if it's out there somewhere in the MCU, and I just need to find it. But that was my guess in terms of how it was working, through Marvel.
Christian, thoughts?
Well, yeah, as Rachel alluded to, there's the Star Wars parallel, which when you want to do something that makes absolutely no sense, just put your character in space and don't really explain how she survived it. And the fact that it makes absolutely no sense, that's fine. We'll just go ahead and do that. So that I really liked Daisy. It's literally, you can draw the line when she got powers, when she stopped calling herself Sky. That's when I'm liking the character. But I think that I did not want to see her die, but I think that would have, again, been great storytelling if it was, well, to kill me, you're going to have to kill yourself. And she was like, well, yeah, exactly. Because I didn't want her to die. But I think if there was anybody more willing to die for well, it's probably Coulson, because he knows he can always come back next week. But I do think that she's someone willing to sacrifice herself for everyone. And I do think that would have been because, we met her at the beginning of the show and who she was and what her arc was. That just would have been great storytelling. It just would have been very unpopular. It would not have been something that was a crowd pleaser. And I think that that's what they wanted too much. They wanted us to get all of our, not just happily ever after, but like super duper duper happily ever after for everybody. It would have been there. I wanted the pain. I wanted the suffering. I wanted some death. I didn't get any of those things. All I got was just a bunch of hugs and smiles. And I didn't want that. I didn't want that.
I have to say about the concept with Cora, I just didn't like the fact that she was able to just give Daisy life in a way. But we've seen in the MCU people be outside. Of course, both of them happen to be gods, whether it's Quill, who's half god, or Thor, who's a god. They both survived being in space. And they didn't need Cora. So, I don't know. I thought the fight was cool. I do think that Malik did underuse his powers. You have both of their powers now. So why are you only using Quake against Quake? And Malik is not trained in hand-to-hand combat by May. You are. So in hand-to-hand, there should have been no way that Malik was able to get a punch on Daisy. And when it comes to the power department, there should have been no way that Daisy's singular power was only matched by another single power. You literally have Cora's power, who seems like it's exponentially more powerful than Daisy's power.
My only comment to that is with Malik taking Cora's power, he had just gotten it. So I would at least argue with that element that maybe he did not know how to quite harness her power.
Really? Because he kind of knew what to do at the end, and he controlled it perfectly fine at the end when he was about to do something.
Maybe it took him a little bit to get the hang.
It took him while he was fighting with another power to figure that out. I do that all the time. If I play PlayStation 4, if I'm playing Madden, I figure out NBA 2K. No, that's not how that works. That is not how that works. He understood, and we've seen other people, including Stifler, be able to use his teleportation power right away. Right away, he was already teleporting people. Right away. And it took him 3 tries to get him in the right exact location. I'm just saying it was underutilization. I did like thinking Daisy was going to die for a second, but then Daisy came back to life, and that really means that there were no stakes. We did get Coulson captured, of course. Coulson, as Christian put it very well, used Sybil and stole her ATM and all her money because she gave them the code. I want to know what you thought of that scene, Christian.
I did like the sort of the trading of the smug smiles, sort of the back and forth. I do like when you have the seemingly all-knowing, the omniscient, all-powerful character who's like, yeah, so this is why don't you watch the way this is going to unfold? And then Coulson is like, yeah, how about you watch how none of your odds told you that this was going to happen? And I did like that by going into the quantum realm, she didn't have any odds anymore. That this, it's like Doctor Strange. This was the one way for it to play out, and it was the one that she didn't have any probabilities for, because even they didn't plan to have to bring her into the quantum realm. So I did like that show, and I thought it was fun that, May jumping out of the ceiling as the cavalry was what did her in. Good old-fashioned kicking, that was the best. To sort of go back to what you said, Tehran, that was the best part of the fight with Daisy and Malik, was that when she really needed to, to get a few seconds to herself, she just kicked him or punched him, and he just had to take it, because that's somebody who knows how to kick ass, and he's just like, 100%. I can shake it. That's all I got.
And it's the first time that I actually wanted to see the fighting over the powers. Like, I actually liked enjoying their physical hand-to-hand fight more than the power fight, even though it was cool to see it. Katie, what did you think?
With the Coulson and I can't ever remember her name. Sybil?
Coulson and Sybil, yeah.
Sybil. Yeah. There's a lot of names, so sometimes it takes me a second to be like, who are we talking? Like, what's their name again? But I like a good, like, I guess you can't really make an analogy other than like a good poker face, like a good deceptive just play. I like it. I think with someone like Sybil, you have to think of the one possibility that she is not going to see coming, because she can see everything, and she thinks she can see everything. So you have to be able to outsmart her, and that was, and of course, coming from Coulson just makes it all the better, because we all love Coulson. Coulson's the one who brought us all into this world to begin with, so it's convenient that he was the one that was able to help save the day in the end and have it go full circle. So I enjoy seeing Coulson and how he manages to get to work and how things happen to work out when he is involved in what he is able to do.
Agent Radner.
So.
I was also equally happy to see Coulson helping and saving the day. And to me, it's really hard to separate Coulson LMD from Coulson himself. And I personally, like, when I remember at the end of season 6, when they first introduced this idea that we'd be getting LMD Coulson, I remember thinking, oh, well, this is going to be someone, it's never going to be Coulson. It's never going to be the real guy. But by the end of 7, I don't distinguish Coulson versus LMD Coulson, because they have the same soul, they have the same memories. And so to me, even though this is an LMD, this is still Coulson. And I loved the fact that we began with him and we got to see him end the day and save the day. Well, be a part of the group saving the day. And I just loved his one-liners, and we got some of that dynamic that we've had since the beginning. And it just really, like, this would not have been the same if they had just dropped Clark Gregg. I mean, there was no way they could have done that, but if they had gone that route and done something risky, and it just would not have been the same season without him. It
wouldn't have been the same. However, I will say this. There was that part, going back to John Garrett, the explosion. There was the part where Coulson used his body to protect May and then couldn't lift the rock, but then Yo-Yo came and lifted the rock. Like, and you're supposed to be super strong, Coulson. Like, sometimes they just played around with it. I would have loved to have seen Sybil fight. She really didn't. That was just the end of Sybil. We get Daisy's sacrifice, and of course, we get Chronicoms getting empathy, thanks to May's power being transferred to them. I mean, did that play for all of you, Radner?
Here's the thing, not quite. It felt a little flat, but
yeah,
I was willing to let it go because I understood this was the final moment of the final mission, and I didn't want to see anyone die. So for that sake, I was just willing to let it go. I do think it fell flat. Some moments with May, I understand her power to be empathetic, and I like that she's hugging Daisy and that she is being more understanding. But there were moments where even her acting empathetic felt a little flat to me.
It felt forced. It's as if she didn't really feel empathy as a person.
Yeah. And if this was May pretending to have empathy, I could see that. But no, she was actually supposed to be empathetic. So it did feel forced. And I think for that reason, it did not work for me. But because it was the series finale, it wasn't like, oh, this is awful, I'll never watch this again. No, like I was fine that it worked out in a little neat bow, but
it's like Ming-Na Wen doesn't have real empathy in real life, so it's like she's not pretending to be May. Because even when she was acting empathetic, she wasn't empathetic. Like, she came off like cold.
In Mandalorian, Ming-Na Wen, I mean, she played another character who
had no empathy. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I get it. Like, that's just certain characters you play. And even Mulan, like, she was, I mean,
cold. Kind of cold. Katie, what are your thoughts?
Could not have expected that is possibly the way that they would defeat the Chronicons. Like, it was weird. I honestly had no idea it was going to happen. So I do agree that it was a little forced, because a part of me, the Doctor Who fan in me, was a little bit happy in the sense that it kind of felt like the ending of a Doctor Who episode where you defeat them in a non-traditional way, which of course is nice when you can't predict it. But I'm with you guys on the sense that empathy, but Marvel is all about trying to save people if at all possible and not committing murder or mass murder. And I do appreciate their ability to do that in this sense. You know, the very Peter Parker way of doing things. Like, we're just going to make it so that they're not killed, but they're not going to do that again.
Yeah, at least not their properties. We forget that so many people die.
Yeah.
Side effects of what's going on. When the piece of the building falls, it falls on someone.
Yeah.
Christian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's a bold stance for Katie to take, being anti-murder. But we applaud you in the year of 2020. It's nice to know that you're an ally to the anti-murder community, because we need more voices like yours that speak for us. Look, I thought that it was the weakest part of the finale. And honestly, one of the weakest things they've ever done on the show, where they take this kind of really cool threat that they've had for more than a season, and they defeated them with the Care Bear stare, where we're going to give you all these feelings, and I don't think you're going to be able to handle it. Do you feel good now? Great, because you're good now. Are you friend or are you enemies? We're friends, of course, like we've always been. Oh, so not only do you feel better, now you're stupid. You don't even remember what it was before. So no, I didn't like it. And when I think back on this finale, I'm going to Care Bear stare myself to make sure I forget it.
Well, and the thing is, I don't even think they understand. Empathy doesn't work like that. You don't just transfer empathy. Like, if you transfer someone's ability to be empathetic, they're not just going to randomly see someone and be like, oh, I am completely different. No, it does not work like that. And I think that that's the
100%.
Yeah, like you can still be evil and be empathetic, but you might be empathetic toward the wrong side. Like, empathy does not mean what I think they believe.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll tell you why, because Rachel Radner is a perfect example of that. She's an empathetic person, but to the wrong side. Sousa and Daisy. Not Tehran and Daisy, like Christian, no matter how much we try to make her empathetic and understand. Let's talk about Alia really quick before we get to the 1-year reunion special that they had. Alia, was she a surprise? Katie?
No. I think we all had an idea that there was going to be a baby.
Some of us more than others. Whatever. It's fine.
Because Deke. We all love Deke. We don't want to see his mom not be born. So I think we all had a feeling that was going to happen either in the end of the show or in that time when they were gone. And I think it was even addressed that I think Rachel said, oh, I think she's going to come back pregnant. You know, she didn't come back pregnant. They came back with a baby. So, but I don't think, at least I did not expect it to happen as early on in this story as it did.
I thought
Rachel, yes, you seem like you're about to jump out of your seat, Rachel. Yes, what do you?
Yes, two things. One, in the beginning, I kind of thought she'd already had the baby. I do remember making that prediction at some point. But also, my big thing is that, one, the mother, I don't think that Deke was ever going to die. I think we've established that if you've been born already, this is not Back to the Future logic. This is, you were born in your timeline. Even if you end up in a divergent timeline, you came from a timeline where you exist. Otherwise, we would have seen Daisy disappear if that was the case. So I think they've established that you don't disappear if you are already born. But two, in season 5, when we met Deke's mother, one, she had an American accent, and this baby has an English accent. The other thing is they have different names. So this is not Deke's mother. And the chances of Deke being born, I don't even know why they would, not to jump to the 1 year, I don't even know why they would say, maybe we'll see him again. The chances of Deke showing up, in my mind, they're not seeing Deke. They're going to see another grandson if their daughter ends up getting married and has a child.
Yeah, because the world is not ending on that ship. Deke cannot be born because it's whoever with the guy on the ship and blah, blah, blah under those circumstances.
And this could be a different girl. This could be someone completely different that they gave birth to.
Yeah, definitely. This is not even their child. This is, I think, it was more likely that this was one of Michael Jackson's children. It was Richard Simmons. Okay. Okay. All right.
So you're saying that You're saying Deke is blanket?
Yeah, I'm just saying. Christian.
Yeah, I think that there are some inconsistencies, but that's the thing that when you deal with time travel, I do think that a version of Deke would be their grandson, but I think that I think Fitz isn't going to be alive to see him. I think that we get the happily ever after here, but I just don't believe it. I think something terrible is still going to happen, and their happily ever after will last as long as it did sort of in the flashback where they filled in the gap in the story. However many years that was, half as much of that, and then more tragedy. So, but I'm glad we got to know Deke, and I'm glad that our Deke is just killing it with Victoria Hand, and going out on tour. And I'm glad that he's the person that deserves to be happy, since they couldn't be bothered to try and revive Enoch, like Rachel said before.
And we also got
whoever
Piper.
said that.
Who said what?
Piper.
Christian? We got Piper and Rockboy.
Yeah, right, and Davis and Flint.
Yeah, Flint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we got Davis back. Let's talk about that 1 year reunion. Let's get to that before we go even twice as long as both those episodes combined. So we get a 1 year reunion. They sit around in the chairs, and it looks like they're real people, but they're not. They're holographic projections as they're all living their lives. The team comes back together, but not in the way we expected. Mac and Yo-Yo are on assignment. Mac is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yo-Yo's his. It seems like they're in a relationship. They talk, baby booby it up. Fitz and Simmons are clearly living their lives and raising this child, and exhausted doing so. Daisy's in space with Sousa and her sister, exploring their pre-Enterprise. And then we get May, who I thought for a second had become a psychiatrist, but she's just like the recruiting head at S.H.I.E.L.D. Because they kind of kept her new job. They kind of made it mysterious, like, oh, and your new job and blah, 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 your new job. It's like, no, your new job is just your old job. It's the same job. Like, it's the job you started out with where you found recruits. Like, you're not. Anyway, and even though for a second it looked like Coulson and May were going to end up together, Coulson got in his flying car and drove away. Thoughts, Rachel?
That really hurts me that Coulson and May did not end up at least working together. I get it. He's an LMD, and if they didn't want to cross that boundary, which to me, cross it, be together, like screw it. They should have just put them together. And I get it. This is not Coulson, the original Coulson, but to me, they are one and the same. They have the same memories. This LMD Coulson acts the same way. He is Coulson. And I feel like that was the biggest disservice, that we did not see them at least working together at Coulson University. They said that May was a lecturer. So why was Coulson not there with her? That really bugged me the most. But I did like how they tied up everything else. I kind of, we got the sense that Mac and Yo-Yo were in a relationship, even though it's weird to me because I felt like Mac earlier on in episode 11, I felt like he was hinting that he might have been done with everything too. So I was a little confused by that, but you know what? Maybe he wasn't ready. Obviously, Yo-Yo wasn't, so I'm not surprised there. I'm glad that Fitzsimmons retired and they just finally get to live their life in peace. Like, that made me really happy. And I was really I was sad in general here because obviously last moments. So I think for that alone, I felt very unsettled, but I think some of that is just subjective to me in that I did not want it to end. And I didn't want this to be the last moment. So I was more sad than mad about what they were doing. And so I will say that that's, just some of how I was feeling there. But overall, I was pretty satisfied with how they wrapped up the characters, just not what they did with Coulson going off alone. Because to me, this was the whole idea of family. Why did we end with Coulson going his own separate way?
Katie.
I agree with Rachel for the most part. It was a little weird and sad to not see Coulson and May together, but I did appreciate there was like a lot of symmetry with, you know, there's that scene in Endgame where Captain America, 10 years after what happened, or what is it, 10 months or whatever it is they're sitting around that meeting and all talking and trying to cope. And so I did kind of appreciate some of the little Easter eggs and like things that they've done in the MCU that they kind of brought back into this show. Because, you know, they used to connect the show a lot more and then it fell off in the last 2 seasons after with Infinity War and Endgame and all that. So I did appreciate some of those moments. As far as the overall way that they handled it and had them all meeting a year later, and technically they were not all in the same room. They said this would be the last time you all be in the same room together. Technically they weren't wrong. Enoch wasn't wrong because they were not all present. They were just virtually there. But some of my best and worst series finales ever have to have this sort of ending where everybody's together. Now, some did it terribly.
Sure.
Like, for example, True Blood was terrible. But Friends kind of had that same thing where they all separated, but they still went on living their lives. And that's why I like this, in the sense that this chapter is over. But that's all. Their lives still continue to go on in the way that they're meant to be. And that's somewhat nice to watch and refreshing to watch in a way that it didn't fall apart by them doing it. And I think that is why I was able to appreciate it, that, okay, it's over, but it's not over. But it is over in the fact I was like, this is the last 5 minutes. Please stop.
Christian, your thoughts?
Well, at this point, Coulson is obviously a machine, so it would make sense that he's reunited with his true love, Lola, also a machine, and that is his happily ever after. It doesn't need to be Melinda May, whom, he's already had his moment with. Now he's got to get back to his best girl, his flying car. And I in general, I liked the book club sequence, as I called it earlier. I like knowing that everybody's okay. A little bit that we saw. I already said that I feel like we could have thrown Deke a bone, but whatever. And I think that, each of their little flashes back is a little cute. I don't know. I think I would have liked to have seen more from May, but she's probably fulfilled there. I think if she had just jumped back into a fight, that would have been. And they didn't have to explain why.
I would have loved if they all died at this point. I mean, here's the thing, right?
That's what I wanted.
It could have been sad. They try to make it happy. It was more sad when they try to make it happy. Like, honestly, Phil and May not ending up together broke my heart. Like, I was like, really? And they kept flirting still. Just do it, guys. Just do it. Just take that LMD. Like, come on. Like, make it happen. It's just, like, I don't care about Susan, Daisy. I don't even care about Fitz and Simmons as much as I do about May and Coulson getting together. So everyone else paired off but May and Coulson. The two people who've been at it for the longest time. I just thought it just felt a little Lifetime-ish to me. That's all. It felt Lifetime-ish. It was cool. It was cute. But Coulson getting in his cool car and flying away, I'm hoping that means he's in the MCU. That's all. That's the only thing that I got out of it. And that I think there will be a spinoff with Daisy and Sousa. There will be like a Netflix spinoff. I could see it at least on Hulu. Hulu buys anything. We could see them on Hulu. Where it's like, agents of Astrofields or whatever. Just something. But that's about it. Definitely a good season finale, not a great series finale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel. But it did remind us of us as we virtually meet, and this is the last time we'll be together, because I will never be in the same room with Rachel Radner ever again in my life.
It's been a pleasure. I hope the stripping business goes well.
Yeah, she's talking to you, Katie. Actually, she's talking to you. Which I found also that was actually dismissive and a microaggression, but whatever. Where can people find you?
No, but it's true. The stripping business is actually going really well for Katie. It was sort of embarrassing when I ran into her at the club. but
You're very much-
but I tipped well.
You tip well. You're a stripper, Christian. So why are you trying to deny that? You ran into her at work, buddy, and it's fine now. I've been on your OnlyFans,
She
Christian.
tipped me.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
we know what DMZ really means. So look, where can people find you if you want to be found? Christian Blatt.
Well, I'm right here on the screen. It's Christian Blatt at Christian DMZ. And of course, this is my channel, damn it. So subscribe to this channel, The Blackcast, because this show is ending, but we'll still do Marvel Talk. And I will try and bully both Tehran and Madam Katie Keene to join us at some point in the near future. And, I know we've gone incredibly long, and the running time for this after show is longer than the 2 finale, because I think it's an hour and 32 minutes for 2 episodes. Yeah. We're about to clock in at 150, but I'm going to give you my agent of should. Everybody should have died. That's not what we got. I wanted happily ever after, but you know what? That's what you get, because this is Disney after all. So please follow me, subscribe to this channel. We'll continue to talk about all this stuff. If you want to still talk Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., do it on Twitter like a grown-up.
Katie, where can people find you if you want to be found?
You can find me where it says on the screen at Katie Christine across all social media, including Twitch. I also do a convention reporting show on that hashtag show called The Con Guy, and aka The Scare. We also do a show called The Scare Guy, usually on Monday nights. If you are interested in that, you can follow my socials, and I post all of that stuff there, and also streaming on Twitch. So
that's what's up, and of course, Agent Rachel Radner.
Yes. So you can find some of my, most of my hosting and acting stuff at Rach Goodman on Twitter. But anymore, I am using the Rachel Radner name more and more for pretty much everything. So you can find me on Instagram at Rachel Radner Author. You can find me on Twitter at Rachel Radner. You can find me on Facebook, guess what, at Rachel Radner. But I'm also a self-published author. You can find 3 of my books so far on Amazon. I have 2 anthologies that I'm part of, all under that Rachel Radner name. I am also, I will be around doing my own podcast. I am very seriously considering doing a retrospective Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast and starting it back up from season 1. I don't know yet, though. So that's where you can find me and what I might be up to.
That was so much stuff that I won't find you. It's just so much. You can find me, however, I'm Tehran all across the board. You can check out my self-published books. They're called Facebook posts, and you can find me anywhere else you want to. I am Tehran. You know what? Especially with Christian and Rachel, we've been doing this for many years. We've come together. So, and Katie, welcome to the family. You've been a wonderful addition. I just want to say, never talking to you people again. That's all I'm saying. Never. I'm deep. I'm going back to the reality where I'm a freaking star and I run S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, and it's me and Daisy actually. By the way, there is a Daisy possibility on his planet. Oh no, his timeline, Daisy can't exist. The mom's dead, right?
Yeah, she can't exist. But he'll find someone.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll make one.
Also, I think we need to try to get it trending that they need to make a Deke spinoff.
Totally.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hashtag Deke lives.
We'll do that. That'll be our assignment. But all the fans and everyone out there, thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, as this chat, I'm sure we'll be on many more chats to come. So you'll catch us later. I can't get away from these people. I've tried.
There aren't enough AUs for that.
I know. We'll see you guys. Bye.